Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Devlog number 5 for my indie game. It's been about 3 months and I've been busy adding a ton of new stuff, so let's get into it. First up are the rooms. I made these little crates so you can break for some money and scattered them around the map to make things a little more interesting. I also made some changes to the room generation system. I made it so I can sort rooms into one of 5 types: guaranteed, special, common, and uncommon, and one more that I'll talk about later. This gave me way more control over what types of rooms can generate in a map. I can now make it so that the amount of enemy rooms and the amount of reward rooms remain relatively even across all the floors. This way I can ensure that players actually have to fight enemies instead of just breezing through a floor with no enemies. Of course, I also added some new rooms, and I tried to make these ones a little more unique. First up is this room with 3 items on the ground. You can either choose to take one of the items that's there, or press the button and pay some gold to reroll. I don't want too many rooms where you can choose your items on a floor, so it goes in the special tier along with the shop. Then there's some enemy rooms. Probably my favorite is the library. It has a big swarm of books in the middle and drops a chest when you kill all of them. I'm really happy with the way this room looks, but I do need to add some new bookshelf variants. I also created a room for this iron golem looking guy who throws an anvil at you, then chains you in and cooks you. As I create more rooms, I've come to realize that rooms that take a long time to clear just aren't fun, so I removed the big donut room and the maze room. Also, all enemy rooms now drop a chest in the center when cleared, since otherwise it kinda feels unfair to have to go through all that work for nothing. Experimenting with how many visual effects I can pack into one little room, I made this little sink thing that you can drink out of and get a random stat buff. While I was at it, I also added gambling. In the slot room, you can push a button to roll these 3 spinners. If you get lucky though, it'll add new spinners to either side, which will amplify the rewards you get when you finally do get something. When you win, you can get money or chests, or it'll spawn enemies in your face, so you still can get unlucky. This next one might be a little too complicated for its own good. It consists of a 3x3 grid separated by some spikes. When you kill an enemy within one of these grids, a torch pops up in the grid. If you take damage while in one of the spaces though, the torch gets cleared. Once you kill all the enemies, the torches turn into chests, and you receive your reward. It does take a lot of skill to get all 9 chests, but it is possible. There's also now finally ladders to go between the phases. It was super unintuitive knowing when you can and cannot travel between phases, so now there's actual ladders to take you between the two. I also reshaped the arena to make enemies only come from one side, since I feel like it just fits the tower defense theme a lot better. Hey everyone, this is me from the future here. I just made a new Discord server where I'll be posting progress updates on the game in real time, so make sure to join. Next up are items. Before I got to adding new items though, there was a serious problem with my current item system. See, you're limited to 3 relics, and they don't get any stronger over the course of the game, so once you get 3 relics, there's really no reason to keep collecting any. To address this, I added scaling stats on the relics. Now different stats on a relic, such as how much poison damage it does, can scale with the course of time. This makes sure that the player can always have an upgrade if they go deeper in the dungeon. Another issue is that the player just leaves a ton of items behind on the ground. To solve this, I'm adding the ability to scrap items. The plan is that the player will be able to spend this scrap for permanent upgrades that last for the rest of the run. These could be anything from small stat increases to buffing your towers, to even giving you more relic slots. Anyways, onto the item changes. The hammer got massively revamped. Spinning hammers spawn on your body that can damage enemies that come close, and when you activate your ability as indicated by this handy little GUI now, the hammers fly outward and will have to regenerate again. There's also another attack that charges up to 3 hammers while you hold your left click button and drops them onto enemies. I also made the spears ability a lot more satisfying. This will definitely be the new standard for weapons going forward. Moving on to some cool new relics, there's a celestial wrench which allows you to place towers inside the dungeon. These are picked up when you switch rooms, and nearby towers also receive a buff. On top of granting you damage and move speed, the infernal boot leaves a fire trail behind where you walk, which burns enemies. The elemental glove grants you some attack speed and allows you to cycle between 3 elemental effects: burning enemies, life stealing from enemies, and slowing enemies. Adding items like these are a lot more beneficial to the game in my opinion, since they make the game more fun instead of just making numbers go up. Perfected Strike gives you some damage and crit chance, and also reduces your weapon's ability cooldown when you critically strike an enemy. This led to some unwanted behavior though, so I'm definitely going to have to add some limitations. All of these items have a new shiny panel when you hover over them, and hovering over an item on the ground now shows you a comparison with your current item. Towers also now have their own stats, which increase over the course of the game. To encourage players to play more strategically with their towers, there's now a tower limit, but eventually the player will be able to increase this limit with their scrap. A lot of you guys have been asking about bosses in this game. I've just started work on a new feature where every 10 or so floors is a boss floor. Right now the only boss I have is an upscaled version of the slime for testing. But the plan is for bosses to have unique fights and rewards. After defeating a boss in the dungeon, the next wave that spawns in your arena will be a boss wave. This means it'll be altered in some way depending on the boss. Here's the thing though, once you defeat a boss, the dungeon will change themes. The player could start out in the standard dungeon theme, then move on to an icy theme, or a fire theme. You get the idea. The hope is that this will massively increase replayability since there will be a whole lot more to see and you actually have to survive to later stages of the game to see all it has to offer. I have yet to decide on a theme and boss for the ending of the game, but with this new system there's definitely room to add one. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed and want to see more, feel free to subscribe or join the Discord server. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.